Boom. What's up, guys? It's your boy, Tim, back here again with another video discussing pro wrestling. I'm back in the man cave. I just got some stuff fixed up and moved around out here and cleaned up. So I'm hanging out here, and I had some notes actually put together this time, believe it or not, some pre-gaming of the conversation. And what I want to talk about today is early King of the Ring tournaments, stuff that happened to them, reviews, things I would have changed about them, things I liked about them that I wouldn't change, and some WTF moments, like some semifinalists that you wouldn't really consider to be semifinalists in King of the Ring in terms of how we look at it now. Those were like, you know, semifinals in the terms of, you know, NCAA wrestling or high school state championship wrestling or anything like that. It's always, you know, semifinals are always sometimes even better than the finals, because you got four of the best guys of all time, you know, or in the tournament at that time, going at it, and they're always very exciting, fighting to get to a spot in the finals. And so I want to go over some of this stuff. And now all of these tournaments that I'm going to be talking about, they're from the 80s, and they weren't pay-per-views. You know, when I'm saying King of the Ring, you might be thinking of, you know, the pay-per-view that you see on Raw or SmackDown or you know, on a pay-per-view in the 90s. But these were all just house shows, primarily all done like the same place in like Rhode Island or something like that. I can do a little bit of fact checking here in a minute. But they were all just, like special event house shows. And then, you know, sometimes they played off the King gimmick and sometimes they didn't, you know, and that's another thing we'll talk about. You'll see some of this. Some of them you'd never even know were King of the Rings. Like $1 Million Man was a King of the Ring. What? Don Morocco was a King of the Ring. What? You know, Tito Santana was a King of the Ring. What? You know? But yeah, I want to talk about some of these. The first being the first ever King of the Ring, 1989. And if you don't mind, I got the VHS in the background going of WrestleMania 6 here. Yeah, one of my favorites. I got the VHS, my VCR going out here. My favorite tag team of all time, the Rockers. Actually, it's funny, I'm deciding to record right when this was coming up because they're one of my favorites. All right, let's talk about King of the Ring 1985. In King of the Ring 1985, you have Don Morocco winning the tournament. I would keep Don Morocco winning the tournament. I'm not going to change that. This is something that I'm going to rebook. A couple of these I'm going to say, and I'll try to go through these so I can do it all on one video. I don't want to make it an hour video. Some of these I'm going to rebook. Some of these I'm not going to rebook because I think they worked out well. 85, this first one, I'm going to rebook a little bit. They got Don Morocco winning in the finals in reality over the Iron Sheik, who at the time was a former WWF heavyweight champion. So that's a good call. I'm going to switch the bracket up around a little bit like this. Let's see if we can see it here. This is how the bracket looks like. I don't know if it's backwards or not because I got the thing flipped. But that's how the bracket actually looked in real life, where they had, you can pause that real quick if you want to, you know, in real life, that's Don Morocco going over the Iron Sheik in the finals. What I have here, now I got it switched up again. I'm not sure if when I uploaded it, if it's a reverse or not. It's showing me reversed here, but it might flip when I'm doing it. I still got Morocco going over, but I have him going over Steamboat in the finals. You know those guys are going to tear the house down. Have Steamboat be the finalist and have that be some kind of knockdown, crazy drag out. They had Steamboat losing in the quarterfinals to the Iron Sheik. In actuality, have, you know, I had the Steamboat and the Sheik being a semifinal match. You know, book that as a semifinal. Have Steamboat go on. I have Morocco beats JYD. He beats Tito Santana. You know, JYD again was getting a big push at the time. Have him go over JYD looking strong, beating Tito in the quarterfinals. have him beating Pedro, another former champ, in the semifinals, and then he beats Steamboat in the finals. Steamboat, I would have him beating the Spoiler in his qualifier, beating Valentine, again, former Intercontinental Champion, in his quarterfinal, beating the Iron Sheik in his semifinal, and then ultimately losing to Morocco in the finals. Again, they had guys like Johnny V in this. They had guys like Les Thornton in this. They had Jim Brunzell and B. Brian Blair, and they actually had Jim Brunzell going on to the semifinals. Like, that's one of the WTFs in this. So Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, one half of the Killer Bees, who again had a pretty good career and was a pretty good athlete. I think he did some of the stuff in Florida, stuff in AWA or whatever. Good like drop kick, light high flyer guy with Greg Gagne, maybe, I think. But in actuality, you know, they have Jim Brunzell losing to Iron Sheik in the semifinals. And whereas Morocco beats Pedro Morales in the semifinals. I kept Morocco beating Pedro in the semifinals. But instead of having Brunzell, you know, in these early ones, you'll see it too. They spotlighted tag teams a lot. Like, you'll see odd tag team guys in the tournament and then getting wins and stuff like that. But again, you have the Spoiler here, which is an odd thing to have him out. You got Johnny V out here, Les Thornton and Steve Lombardi all sort of involved. They had Les Thornton, in actuality, they booked Les Thornton to win and go into the quarterfinals, where he loses to Don Morocco. They have Paul Orndorff and Bob Orton Jr. in a double DQ, which gives a bye to Pedro Morales in the quarterfinals. But they always did that. I feel like Orton and Orndorff were a double DQ somewhere else in the Wrestling Classic or something like that. They also had like a double count out or a double DQ. They were always doing that finish, I guess. But yeah, instead of having Les Thornton go into the quarterfinals, instead of having Jim Brunzell go into your semifinals and stuff like that, I rebooked it around a little bit so that I have Steamboat and Morocco in the finals. And then you have that match go. You still have Morocco win, but you know, maybe you know, in hindsight, maybe that's a more exciting booking, you know, to do something like that. Now, 1986, I want to talk about. 1986, I'm not going to change anything. 1986 is a year I would not rebook anything. Let's see if I can pull up the. If you look at the bracket here, okay, you had qualifiers. You had 1, 2, 3, 4. You had 6 qualifiers, right? We'll call them, you know, like pigtail. That's how they would call that almost in a high school wrestling tournament layout. And then when those guys win, you got Mr. X, you got Harley Race, you got and you got Mike Rotunda, I guess, were all already pre-advanced, you know what I mean? You can see Nikolai Volkov and JYD each have to win a pigtail to go into the quarterfinals there. Or no, yeah, actually, so it's really just, no, it's Mr. X and Mike Rotunda, because Harley Race wins a pigtail. Billy Jack Haynes wins a pigtail. You know, so it's kind of a weird layout, but I'm still not going to change anything about it. I like the fact that Pedro Morales loses in the finals to Harley Race. Harley Race went on to do the King gimmick actually pretty well. Pedro, again, former champion, and I got him as a semi-finalist in the year before, so that's good. You can see he's just like having these good showings in King of the Ring. Billy Jack Haynes is the guy that he loses to in the semis, and Volkov is the guy that Morales loses to in the semis. All right, we can keep that going. Volkov is this, at one time he was the big, strong, foreigner, monster heel guy to Bruno Sammartino, and Billy Jack Haynes was the big Hercules, buff, muscly, comic book character looking good guy. So, you know, that makes sense too. They always have to have their buys in there. They always have buys, the traditional buys. It's weird that they sort of had, you know, the Mike Rotunda advancement and the Mr. X advance. I don't know. I guess they were running low on men that night. And I even looked at some of the, like when they would have this night, again, I like to do the rebookings with the same exact cast of characters, but I would also look at what was going on if they would run 2 shows that day, who would be on the other show, and maybe I could swap in some of that talent from, you know, because they usually do have an East Coast show and a West Coast show, or an A-Town or a B-Town, but I didn't feel like getting all into that, so I'm going to keep it the way it is. And this is 86. I'm going to leave that just the same. Harley Race goes over Pedro Morales in the finals. Harley Race goes on to become King Harley Race and does that gimmick pretty well. Now in 87, I got some stuff changed around here. In 87, let's see if we can get this bracket here. See, Macho Man Randy Savage. At the time, he was technically still a heel. I did a little bit of research on this. It showed like this was right before really the Honky Tonk Man smashed the guitar on his head and he became a good guy. That happened in October, and this was in like, or no, that happened in like maybe October, and this was September, yeah. So, but apparently he was getting really good crowd reactions at the time, so he was basically treated as like a face, Macho Man. He goes over King Kong Bundy in the end, and they had some weird matches here. It looks like they got King Kong Bundy versus One Man Gang in the first round, in actuality, which I'm pretty sure both of them were always just straight heels. You got Tama, you got you got Haku, and you got Sika being like the father of those guys. Again, you got Jim Brunzell back here. He loves being in this tournament. In reality, they had Dangerous Danny Davis, though, make it to the semifinals against Macho Man Randy Savage. Like, Dangerous Danny Davis as a semifinalist of the King of the Ring, like, again, when I was a kid, he had go away heat. Now I get it, he's a respected booker and trainer and all that other stuff, but like, I just didn't like the whole wrestling referee gimmick and then the cheating referee gimmick and being with the Hart Foundation, and he was small and he, you know, compared to those guys back then. I guess I can respect him again as a worker, but like, I did not like that, and I would not book him in my King of the Ring as a semifinalist. As you can see here, let's see if I can move this up now. So this is my 87 rebooking. I got Macho Man still goes over. I still got him beating King Kong Bundy in the finals, but I split up the gang and Bundy. I kept this obvious bye because they always do the buys. You got to have a bye somewhere in the tournament to make the matches go. But I got Macho beating One Man Gang here. That gets a little foreshadowing towards WrestleMania 4 tournament. I got Macho against Haku here because I really think Macho, in actuality, they got Macho against Nikolai Volkov, again, a veteran, and then they got Macho against Jim Brunzell in the quarters. I got Macho against Volkov, okay, let's say in the first round, and then Haku in the quarters because, you know, hopefully those two guys, I don't think I ever saw them. I'm sure they had matches somewhere, but I don't know if I ever remember seeing those guys wrestle each other. And as me as a fantasy booking, hey, if we're doing that, I would like to see that. I got King Kong Bundy going through Brutus Beefcake in the first round, okay? The sacrificial gambit and make Beefcake look like a, you know, bleeding heart. I got him beating JYD then in the quarterfinals. Okay, JYD makes it a little farther this year. He's into the quarterfinals this year before he gets jobbed out. And then Bundy gets that nice bye in the semis to take the breather into the finals. Whereas again, Macho goes through Volkov, Haku, One Man Gang. One Man Gang, I got him beating Spivey and Jim Brunzell. This gives Brunzell a nice, at least a win again. He goes 1-1 in the tournament. That makes Danny Davis go out in the first round, makes him an 0-1 guy. And again, in this tournament, they included Special Delivery Jones. That's a weird appearance for him. Again, you got Spivey. They booked Special Delivery Jones to beat Sika, too, in the first round to make it into the quarterfinals. Spivey doesn't get a win here. They actually, in real life, had a Haku and Rick Martel wrestle to a draw, 15-minute time limit draw. And that's what causes Bundy to have the semifinals off. Which is funny because Haku had to have been a heel and Martel had to have been a heel, I think, too. They did it. You see that a lot in actuality. They booked face versus face matches and heel versus heel matches more often than they usually would. I have Tito Santana and Ron Bass going to, like, let's say a time limit draw or a double count out or something like that as my buy. Tito gets beat in the first round in this, which I do not appreciate because I love Tito, especially in this era. He should always be a top contender, just for his work rate. And Ron Bass, in actuality, they had lost to Jim Brunzell right away. So still okay, little changes. I'm still keeping, I'm not going crazy. I just had Morocco still winning, but against a different finalist. I still have Macho winning, still over Bunny in the finals. So this isn't crazy. That's 87. Right, now I'm going to talk about 88. 88, I also did some rebookings on. And we'll talk about that. So 1988's King of the Ring, right? Okay, in actuality, they had, guess what? They had DiBiase beats Randy Macho Man Savage in the finals. I also got DiBiase beating Randy Macho Man Savage in the finals. And DiBiase, yes, is a former King of the Ring, 1988. When I met $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, I said, congratulations on your win in 1988. I wasn't able to say that till then. I hadn't met him, so I was able to formally, I don't know if he gets that a lot, so that was cool. He gave me his autograph. Again, yeah, we'll show you the bracket here. In actuality, they got DiBiase beats Savage in the finals. DiBiase he actually pays off Ron Bass in the semifinals and doesn't have to wrestle him, and Ron Bass forfeits. But look at that, Randy Savage beats the Red Rooster in the semifinals. I get it, Terry Taylor was probably a good athlete at one time, but that character, come on. And in the quarterfinals, Red Rooster beats Iron Mike Sharp. What the heck's going on here? Randy Savage gets a bye in his quarterfinals. Shawn Michaels, we get to see his first appearance in the quarterfinals when he gets a win over Dangerous Danny Davis, again, who had no business even really being in that tournament if it was up for me. But we see Ted DiBiase beats Brutus Beefcake. Again, in actuality, unfortunately, they got Beefcake going out right away. I wasn't really a huge Beefcake fan anyway. He was the first actual Hasbro, 4-inch action figure that I ever got. When we first got that, when the first series came out, my brother got Hogan and DiBiase. I got Brutus Beefcake and Axe because I was much smaller. I guess I just picked the first two that weren't DiBiase. And Matt was smart enough to get the main event heel and the main event good guy, and I, for some reason, got one half of a tag team and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Anyway, so DiBiase beats Beefcake. He beats Ken Patera in the quarterfinals. He beats Ron Bass by forfeit, like we said, in the semis. And he beats Savage by interference. He beats him by countout, interference by Virgil. Savage, to get to the finals, beats Virgil, which is a nice callback. He beats Virgil in the first round. He gets a bye in the quarters because Hercules and Bad News go to a double countout. He beats the Red Friggin' Rooster in the semifinals, and before losing to DiBiase in the finals. Red Rooster beats Marty Jannetty in the first round. I don't appreciate that either. Rockers, again, are my favorite tag team. And Iron Mike Sharp beats Boris Zukov in the first round. So a legit quarterfinal, WTF, a quarterfinal of the King of the Ring history is Red Rooster versus Iron Mike Sharp. That's a quarterfinal match. And Red Rooster wins and goes on to the semis. How I would book it is, and I forgot to write somebody down. I got DiBiase DiBiase beats Beefcake in the first round, which happens in actuality. I got him beating Patera in the quarterfinals, happens in actuality. I got him forfeiting. So I got DiBiase's run exactly the same. These got harder and harder to rebook because they're pretty well booked. I got Macho Man beating Virgil, same thing. Getting the bye, same thing. I switched up. The only thing I switched up is in this pay-per-view, on a technicality here, we got Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Dino Bravo in a flagpole match. I took out Iron Mike Sharp, I think, totally, and just put and put Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Nikolai Volkov. I switched Volkov. Volkov was originally in the tournament. I swapped it out, Hacksaw versus Volkov, and I put Dino Bravo into the pay-per-view, and it made a little bit of the difference. This way I got Dino Bravo beats Boris Zukov, and that was probably would have been heel versus heel, but again, they booked weird stuff like that, so let's do it. And Jannetty beats the Rooster, with Dino Bravo unfortunately goes over Marty Jannetty into the quarterfinals, that's how you get Dino Bravo into the semis. Macho, again, like we said, is the same. Shawn Michaels, I got, is the same. Beats Danny Davis and then loses to Ron Bass, which is what happens in actuality. And you got Ken Patera going over the Barbarian, I guess. Yeah, wouldn't rebook too much of that, but I would have put Dino Bravo in it, kept Mike Sharp out of it. And don't have the Red Rooster go over in a quarterfinal. This way, it keeps those guys out of the picture. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is 1989. We're getting up there on time too, so I'll keep this quick. 1989, I wouldn't rebook, I wouldn't redo anything about it, and I like it a lot. And I want to talk about why I like it a lot. It's because, if you can see the bracket here again, boom. You got Tito Santana and Rick Martel finally have their blow-off. We never got to see it really on a pay-per-view. We saw it a little bit at a Survivor Series, I think. Maybe it was Survivor Series even of this year, where they were in a match, and I think they had some time in the ring together, or maybe in some Royal Rumbles. They would always get together and fight in the Rumbles. But this was sort of their big blow-off. And Tito Santana gets the friggin' win here and is the king of the ring. I think that's so awesome. And he's like a high school math teacher, middle school math teacher, like an hour from here, not too far from here in New Jersey. But Tito Santana, he beats Bad News Brown again by pin, which Bad News Brown, like, always lost by count out or disqualification. So that's cool. He beats the Warlord by pin after the Warlord beats a Bushwhacker. He beats Akeem in the semifinals after Akeem beats Beefcake, again, the sacrificial first round guy. Let's keep it that way. If I rebook anything, I'll always make sure to make Beefcake lose in the first round. And then Akeem gets the standard bye in the quarterfinals. Whereas Martel, he beats Bill Woods. I didn't even get a chance to look up Bill Woods, and he does not have a Wikipedia. I imagine he is a local enhancement guy that probably has matches on the wrestling database or something like that. But he was a substitute for Hillbilly Jim apparently, so it's probably a last minute deal. Yeah, Martel beats Bill Woods. Then he beats a Bushwhacker. A Bushwhacker makes the quarterfinals of King of the Ring. Also, WTF there, 1989. Yes, Bushwhacker Luke is a quarterfinalist in the King of the Ring. Martel beats him in the quarterfinals. Martel beats Jimmy Snuka in the semifinals, which I think is cool too. I don't know if the whole thing with Jimmy Superfly Snuka and his girlfriend. I was not there. I don't have any of the evidence. I haven't seen any of the thing. I don't know. Whatever. If it is true what they say it is, it's obviously very terrible. But I think it's cool that he got at least a push this night to semifinalist for the King of the Ring, because he did have that spot in the WrestleMania 1 main event, not really. And then other than that, he really didn't have any other, cool big main event moments. And this is just a nice thing for that character for this, federation. Snuka beats the Barbarian. Again, they're like Island Boy buddies. And then he beats Haku in the quarterfinals. Again, Island Boy buddies. That's nice that they gave him both of those guys in succession. Haku beats the Red Rooster in the first round. Again, Rooster sort of deserved to lose in the first round. Volkov was in here. He's the one that loses to Bushwhacker Luke. Unfortunately, Volkov was a substitute for Barry Windham. And other than that, they didn't really have any more enhancement guys sort of in the first round, except for the replacement Bill Woods. So that's King of the Rings. I really like tournaments. I go to the high school state wrestling tournament every year. I like brackets. I like seating. I like all that stuff. I think it's interesting, and I know Vince doesn't always like it, and pro wrestling sometimes don't always like it, whether it's the fans or the promoters. But I always like the King of the Ring concept, and not a lot of people know about these early King of the Ring. Some people might just think that it started in '93 with Brett winning, and then there was the pay-per-view, and then it sort of fell off again. But do some research, and 85 through 90, I think or 91 they had it, and then they didn't have it in 92, but then 93 is the first one that came out with the pay-per-view. I think, like we said, 89 was Tito. I think 90 and 90, again, I don't have it, I should have had it pulled up. I forget who wins in 90. I think Brett wins in 91, and then again, not televised, and then or not pay-per-view at least, and then Brett wins again in 93. In 91, oh no, so I guess they didn't have it in 90. Okay, so 91, yep, Brett wins, and then 93. So they didn't have it in 90 or 92. So yeah, that's cool. But check out those, I don't know if there's footage of them anywhere. Thanks for watching and checking out more wrestling video stuff. Leave some comments below what you like or don't like about those shows. What I did different that might have been stupid, and like and subscribe or whatever. Thanks for checking it out. Peace.